the 18th of May, 2026, Monday morning. We're a reading from the common Buddhist text, guidance and insight from the Buddha. Chief editor of this compilation is Maha Dr. Dhamma Kosachan. We're in chapter 7 of Ethics from the perspective of the Mahayana tradition. Previously, we covered the Theravada tradition, and as we move forward, we're also going to cover the Vajrayana. We left off at the Bodhisattva perfections. Now, according to the Mahayana, a Bodhisattva is a person that takes the vow for their 6 perfections, or the paramis, or in other words, paramitra. But according to Theravada tradition, there is another additional 4, so 10. But here it says the 6 perfections, paramitra, of the bodhisattvas are qualities that are to be developed to a high degree in order that he or she can develop compassion and move closer to Buddhahood. They are generosity, dana, ethical discipline, sila, patient acceptance and forbearance, khanti, vigor and energy, vidya, meditation, dhyana or pavana, and wisdom, panya, prajna. Developing the perfection for the sake of others. A bodhisattva, a great being who trains themselves in these 6 perfections, always bears this in mind. Living beings in this world, their minds distorted, are drowning in the ocean of samsara, rebirth, with no way to escape. If I do not cultivate skill and means and of excellent conduct, I will not be able to rescue them from the suffering of the cycle of rebirth and existence, samsara. I should therefore make an effort to cultivate skills and means and of excellent conduct in order to help those living beings and cultivate the perfections. From the perfections of generosity to the perfection of wisdom, in order to attain unsurpassed, perfect awakening and to rescue living beings from the great suffering of samsara, bearing this in mind, a bodhisattva, a great being, gives up all his mental and physical possession for the benefits of living beings. When he has given up all of his possessions in this way, he bears this in mind. In reality, I do not have anything to give up. Why is this? It is because those mental and physical possessions are empty by their nature. They cannot really be given up. They do not actually belong to me. A person who meditates in this way will quickly perfect the practice of the perfection of generosity, and in due course will attain unsurpassed perfect awakening. A bodhisattva, a great being, in order to liberate beings from the suffering of samsara, would never compromise his ethical discipline. Why is this? It is because a great being always bears this in mind. In order to liberate living beings from their suffering of samsara and to attain unsurpassed perfectly awakened, I must not take the life of any living being or perform any of the other 10 unwholesome kinds of actions, up to not holding any wrong views. I must not pursue sensual pleasures either, longing for the pleasures of heaven, or wish to become a god such as Indra, Mara, or Brahma. I must not aim to become a disciple or a solitary Buddha either, as they only make an effort to liberate themselves. A great being who meditates in this way will quickly perfect his practice of the perfection of ethical discipline, and in due course will attain unsurpassed perfect awakening. A bodhisattva, a great being, in order to liberate beings from the suffering of samsara, would not give in to angry thoughts, even if he is constantly insulted, slandered, tortured, and rebuked. Suffering intense pain, he will never allow even the slightest hateful thoughts to arise in his mind. Even if he is beaten with a stick or hits with rocks, even if his body is chopped into pieces and his limbs are torn apart, even then he would never allow the slightest unwholesome thought to arise in his mind. Why is this? It is because a great being perceives every sound as being like an echo in the valley. He perceives every form as being like the mass of froth. Because of this, there is no reason for him to allow anger to arise and to undermine his wholesome qualities. A great being who meditates in this way will quickly perfect his practice of the perfection of patient acceptance and forbearance, and in due course will attain unsurpassed perfect awakening. A bodhisattva, a great being, in order to liberate beings from the suffering of samsara, will put great energy, vidya, into every thing, acquiring every excellent good quality until he attains unsurpassed perfect awakening. Until he has done so, he will never indulge in laziness. Why is this? It is because a great being always bears in mind, if I am lazy, I will not be able to rescue all living beings from the great suffering of samsara, and also I will not be able to attain omniscience. A great being who meditates in this way will quickly perfect his practice of perfection of vigor, and in due course will attain unsurpassed perfect awakening. A bodhisattva, a great being, in order to liberate beings from the suffering of samsara, practices excellent forms of bhavana. Until he attains perfect awakening, he will never allow his mind to become distorted by greed, distorted by hatred, or distorted by delusions. Why is this? It is because the great being always bears this in mind. If I allow my mind to become distorted by greed, hatred, and delusion, I will not be able to do anything to benefit others, and I will not be able to attain Buddhahood. A great being who meditates in this way will quickly perfect his practice of the perfection of bhavana, and in due course will attain unsurpassed perfect awakening. A bodhisattva, a great being, in order to liberate living beings from the suffering of samsara, is never parted from the perfection of wisdom until he attains unsurpassed perfect awakening. He will make the constant effort to cultivate sublime and excellent worldly and transcendent knowledge. Why is this? It's because the great being always bears this in mind. If I were parted from the perfection of wisdom, I would not be able to help living beings to fully develop. I would not be able to attain omniscience. A great being who meditates in this way will quickly perfect the practice of the perfection of wisdom, and in due course will attain unsurpassed perfect awakening. This is why Subhuti, although all phenomenon is in reality have no substantial nature of function, but are by nature empty, the great beings make a vigorous effort to cultivate the six perfections, which leads to the attainment of unsurpassed perfect awakening without resting for a moment. This passage is cited in the Mahaprana Paramitra Sutra, Daso, Volume 7, Text 220, page 323. The six perfections functioning together. This passage shows how the six perfections can function together even if it is most difficult circumstances. The Venerable Subhuti again spoke to the Blessed One. Blessed One, how can a great being dwell in the perfection of generosity in order to practice the perfection of patience and acceptance? The Blessed One replied to Subhuti, a great being practices generosity with the mind free from grasping, free from meanness. He shares the karmic benefits he acquires from the practice of generosity equally with all living beings, dedicated to it to the attainment of unsurpassed perfect awakening. Even if a great being is slandered, injured, or insulted by others for no reason, his state of mind is not affected. He bears them no ill will. He has no wish to harm them. Instead, he treats them with friendliness, loving kindness, and compassion. This, Subhuti, is how a great being can dwell in the perfection of generosity in order to practice the perfections of patience, acceptance. This is cited in the Maha Pradhana Paramitra Sutra, Daso, Volume 6, Text 220. The perfection of patient acceptance. Even if people treat him in a horrible, vicious way, he never allows any angry thoughts to arise, never repays evil with evil. If someone comes to him to apologize, he immediately accepts their apology. The sight of the living beings always delight him. When he sees them acting in unwholesome ways, he has compassion for them. He praises patient acceptance, criticizes hatred, explains that hatred has harmful effects. This passage is cited in the Upasaka Sila Sutra, Daso, Volume 24, Text 1488, Chapter 18, page 1052. The perfection of patient acceptance 2. This passage praises the Buddha's patient acceptance in a past life when he has once hacked to pieces. It says that this was possible as he lacked any of the essential self that was being attacked, and urges a deep non-attachment to everything. The Tathagata's perfection of patient acceptance, Subhuti, is really a perfection. Why is this? It is because, Subhuti, when an evil king cut off the flesh from every part of my body, I did not perceive any essential self, a living being, a source of life or a person. Indeed, I had no perception or non-perception at all. Why is this? It is because, Subhuti, if I had perceived an essential self at that time, I would also have perceived hostility. If I had perceived a living being, if I had perceived a life force, or if I had perceived a person at that time, I would also have perceived hostility. Why is this? With my higher knowledge, Subhuti, I know that I have lived 500 times as the sage Kasinti Vantin. During those lives, I did not perceive an essential self. I did not perceive a living being. I did not perceive a life force, and I did not perceive a person. Therefore, Subhuti, a great being should avoid any perception and cultivate a mind set on unsurpassed, perfect awakening. He should cultivate a mind which is not based on form. A mind is not based on sounds, smells, tastes, physical objects, or mental objects. He should not cultivate a mind which is based on phenomenon, nor the absence of phenomenon. He should cultivate a mind which is not based on anything. Why is this? It is because whatever the mind is based on, it is not really a basis. This is why the Tathagata has said that a great person should give a gift without basing himself on anything. This passage is cited in the Vrachachetika Prana Paramitra Sutra, section 14, translated from Sanskrit. The perfection of vigor. The importance of vigilance and how best to relate to tasks. Son of a good family. There are 4 kinds of seeds of awakening. The first is not to be attached to possessions. The second is not to be concerned about one's own body and one's own life. The third is to cultivation of patient acceptance, forbearance. And the fourth is compassion for living beings. There are 5 ways to cultivate these seeds. The first is to have no sense of oneself as inferior, never thinking, it is impossible for me to attain unsurpassed perfect awakening. The second is to be able to tolerate physical suffering. The third is to make great effort without interruption. The fourth is to save living beings from immeasurable sufferings. The fifth is to always praise the wonderful qualities of the Taratanatai, the 3 jewels of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha. A wise person who cultivates awakening always trains himself in these 5 ways. There are 6 more practices. These are the 6 perfections, from the perfection of generosity to the perfection of wisdom. There is one thing which allows one to make progress into the 6th perfection, and this is vigilance. A great person who is not vigilant will not be able to make progress in these 5 ways of cultivating the seeds of awakening. If he is vigilant, he will be able to make progress in them. This passage is cited in the Upasaka Sila Sutra, Taso, volume 24, text 1488, chapter 4, page 1037. Someone who is not lazy does not enjoy sitting and lying around. He does not take pleasure in this. He sees the powerful virtue of carrying out both important and incidental tasks, and regards any task he undertakes as worth being taken in successful completion. When he works, he is not concerned about whether he is hungry or thirsty, cold or hot, on time or behind time. He does not have a negative view of his own abilities. He does not get upset if a major task is left unfinished, but he successfully completes a task. He is pleased by his own abilities and praises the results of the energetic efforts he has made. He does not leave a task unfinished halfway through. This is cited in the Upasaka Sila Sutra, Taso, volume 24, text 1488, chapter 18, page 1053. The perfection as generating a Buddha field. This passage explains that the practice of the perfections, the paramis, both creates a better world here and now and leads to an even better Buddha field, in which the great being will dwell when he attains Arihatship, in which he will be the ideal realm for other beings to be reborn into. The blessed Gautama said, "Son of a good family." The Buddha field of a great being is a field of living beings. Why is this? It is because a person obtains the Buddha field is to the extent that he helps living beings. The person obtains the Buddha field by the living beings develop discipline. The person who attains perfection of the paramis attains the Buddha field as living beings either in the Buddha knowledge, through entering his Buddha field. The person who attains the perfection of their paramis obtains the Buddha fields as living beings, cultivate noble spiritual faculties through entering his Buddha field. Why is this? Son of a good family. It is because the Buddha field of the person who attains the perfection of the paramis are created for the sake of living beings. Ratnakara, even if one wants to measure space, akasha, space cannot be measured or adorned. In the same way, a person understands that all phenomena are just like the space, akasha, even if he wanted to measure his Buddha field in order to bring living beings to maturity. A Buddha field is like space, akasha. It cannot be measured or adorned. What's more, Ratnakara, the Buddha field of a bodhisattva is a field of good intentions. When he attains awakening, living beings who are sincere, honest, are born in this Buddha field. The Buddha field of the awakened, a person who has attained their perfections of paramis, is a field of generosity. When he attains this awakening, living beings who have been given everything up gather in this Buddha field. The Buddha field of a person who attains the perfection of their paramis is a field of ethical discipline. When he attains awakening, living beings who have perfected their motivations, who guard their practice from the 10 wholesome kinds of action, gather in this Buddha field. The Buddha field of a person is a field of patient acceptance, forbearance. As when he attains awakening, living beings who are adorned with the 32 bodily characteristics of the Buddha, who have attained perfect awakening in patient acceptance, forbearance, moral self-discipline, and meditative calm, gather in this Buddha field. The Buddha field of a person is a field of vigor. When he attains awakening, living beings who have undertaken the vigorous pursuit of everything which is wholesome gather in this Buddha field. The Buddha field of the person is the field of concentration, meditation, and when he attains awakening, living beings who have fully developed mindfulness, awareness gather in this Buddha field. The Buddha field of a bodhisattva is the field of wisdom, and when he attains awakening, living beings who are firmly established in perfection gather in this Buddha field. The Buddha field of a bodhisattva is the 4 limitless states, and when he attains awakening, living beings who dwell in this loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity gather in this Buddha field. So, son of a good family, the good intentions of the bodhisattva are as strong as his determination to attain awakening. His practice is as strong as his good intentions. His determination is as strong as his practice. His profound meditative understanding is as strong as his determination. His good conduct is as strong as his profound meditative understanding. His development is as strong as his good conduct. His skills in mean is as strong as his development. The purity of the Buddha field is as strong as his skill in means. The living beings in his Buddha field will be pure as the Buddha field itself. Their knowledge will be pure as those living beings themselves. The teachings they receive will be pure as their knowledge allows for. The good conduct that is based on their knowledge will be as pure as the teaching they receive. Their minds will be as pure as good conduct that is based on their knowledge. This passage is cited from the Vimalakritri Nidesa Sutra, Chapter 1, Section 12 through 14, translated from Sanskrit. We'll leave off there today on Chapter 7 on ethics from the perspective of the Mahayana tradition. We will pick up on the next one on the true Bodhisattva. A reading from the common Buddhist text, Guidance and Insight from the Buddha. Chief editor of this compilation, Maha Dr. Dhamma Kosajan.